Do you enjoy spending time in nature?
Absolutely. I find being in nature incredibly refreshing. Whether it's a walk in the park or a hike in the mountains, the fresh air and greenery help me unwind and clear my mind. Nature has a way of making everyday stresses feel smaller.
What's your favorite natural landscape?
I'm particularly drawn to coastal areas. There's something magical about the combination of ocean waves, sandy shores, and salty breezes. Beaches feel both energizing and peaceful at the same time.
Did you spend time in nature as a child?
Yes, my family often went camping in forests, which sparked my love for nature. I have vivid memories of roasting marshmallows under starry skies and waking up to birdsong. Those trips shaped my appreciation for the outdoors.
Is it important to protect natural spaces?
Without a doubt, natural ecosystems are vital for clean air, water, and biodiversity. If we neglect conservation, we risk losing not just scenic places, but essential resources that sustain life.
How can cities incorporate more nature?
Urban planners should prioritize green spaces like parks, rooftop gardens, and tree-lined streets. Even small touches, such as community planters or wildlife-friendly buildings, can make cities healthier and more livable. I'd like to describe a particularly memorable and beautiful sky that I witnessed a few years ago. It wasn't a typical clear blue sky, but rather a dramatic and awe-inspiring display of colors and atmospheric phenomena that left a lasting impression on me. What I saw was a breathtaking sunset over the ocean. The sun, as it approached the horizon, transformed from its usual bright yellow into a deep, fiery orange. This intense color then spread across the sky, painting the clouds with vibrant hues. The clouds themselves were quite remarkable. They weren't the thin, wispy kind, but rather large, cumulonimbus formations, the kind you often see before a storm, but without the storm itself. These massive clouds acted as a canvas for the setting sun, their undersides glowing with a golden light, while their tops were tinged with shades of pink and purple. It was a truly panoramic spectacle, stretching from one end of the horizon to the other. The light wasn't static either. It was constantly shifting and changing as the sun dipped lower, creating an ever-evolving masterpiece of light and color. There were moments when the sky seemed to be on fire, with intense reds and oranges dominating the scene. And then, just as quickly, the colors would soften into gentle pastels, creating a sense of tranquility and peace. The ocean below mirrored the sky, reflecting the vibrant colors and creating an almost surreal sense of immersion. I experienced this stunning display while I was on a trip to a coastal town. I was staying in a small hotel that was situated right on the beach, so I had an unobstructed view of the horizon. It happened one evening. I remember it was during the summer, perhaps around July. The days were long, and the sun set quite late. I had spent the day exploring the town and enjoying the beach, and as evening approached, I decided to take a walk along the shore. I wasn't alone. I was there with my family. We had all traveled to this coastal town for a short vacation. My parents, my siblings, and I were all together, strolling along the beach. We were chatting and laughing, enjoying the fresh sea air, when someone pointed out the incredible colors in the sky. We all stopped in our tracks and stood there, mesmerized by the view. It was one of those moments where everyone falls silent, completely captivated by the beauty of nature. We watched as the sun slowly sank below the horizon, the sky ablaze with color until finally, the light faded and the stars began to emerge. That shared experience, watching that beautiful sky with my family, is a memory that I truly cherish.
What are the main factors that contribute to the destruction of natural habitats in today's world?
The destruction of natural habitats in our contemporary world is a multifaceted issue, stemming from a complex interplay of human activities and systemic pressures. Arguably, one of the most significant factors is the ever-expanding reach of agriculture. As the global population continues to grow, so too does the demand for food, leading to the conversion of vast tracts of land, including forests and grasslands, into agricultural fields. This process not only obliterates existing ecosystems, but also fragments previously contiguous habitats, isolating species and reducing their ability to thrive. For instance, the clearing of the Amazon rainforest for cattle ranching and soybean cultivation is a stark example of this phenomenon, with devastating consequences for biodiversity. Furthermore, urbanization plays a crucial role in habitat destruction. The relentless expansion of cities and towns to accommodate increasing populations results in the encroachment upon and fragmentation of natural landscapes. This not only displaces wildlife, but also leads to increased pollution, altered hydrological cycles, and the introduction of invasive species, all of which further degrade the remaining habitats. The development of extensive road networks to connect urban centers exacerbates this problem, acting as barriers to animal movement and disrupting ecological processes. A prime illustration of this is the rapid growth of megacities in Southeast Asia, where urban sprawl is consuming previously pristine rainforests at an alarming rate. In addition to agriculture and urbanization, logging and mining activities exert tremendous pressure on natural habitats. The extraction of timber and mineral resources often necessitates the clearing of large areas of forest, leading to deforestation, soil erosion, and water pollution. These activities not only destroy habitats directly, but also have cascading effects on the surrounding ecosystems. For example, the extraction of oil in fragile Arctic environments not only destroys the immediate habitat, but also poses a significant risk of oil spills, which can have long-lasting and devastating consequences for marine life and coastal ecosystems. Therefore, a combination of agricultural expansion, urbanization, and resource extraction forms a complex web of factors driving the destruction of natural habitats worldwide.
How can governments effectively balance the need for economic development with the preservation of natural environments?
Balancing economic development and environmental preservation is a formidable challenge for governments worldwide, requiring a nuanced and integrated approach. It's not a question of either/or, but rather how to achieve sustainable development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. One crucial strategy lies in the implementation of robust and well-enforced environmental regulations. Governments can establish clear guidelines and standards for industries, developers, and individuals, setting limits on pollution, resource extraction, and land use. Furthermore, they can create agencies and institutions with the authority and resources to monitor compliance, impose penalties for violations, and ensure that environmental laws are upheld. A strong regulatory framework provides a level playing field for businesses, encouraging them to adopt environmentally sound practices, and it also signals a clear commitment to environmental protection. In addition to regulation, governments can also utilize economic instruments to incentivize environmentally responsible behavior. These can include measures such as carbon taxes, which place a cost on activities that generate greenhouse gas emissions, thereby encouraging businesses and individuals to reduce their carbon footprint. Similarly, subsidies and tax breaks can be offered to companies that invest in renewable energy, adopt cleaner technologies, or engage in sustainable practices. The creation of markets for ecosystem services, such as carbon sequestration or biodiversity conservation, can also provide financial incentives for landowners and communities to protect natural habitats. For instance, payments for ecosystem services, PES, schemes, where landowners are compensated for maintaining forests that absorb carbon dioxide, have proven effective in many countries. Moreover, governments play a vital role in promoting sustainable development through strategic planning and investment. This involves incorporating environmental considerations into all levels of decision-making, from national development plans to local zoning regulations. Governments can invest in infrastructure projects that minimize environmental impact, such as public transportation systems, renewable energy grids, and green buildings. They can also support research and development into innovative technologies that can help to decouple economic growth from environmental degradation. Furthermore, investing in education and public awareness campaigns is essential to foster a culture of environmental stewardship and encourage citizens to make informed choices. By combining effective regulation, economic incentives, and strategic planning, governments can navigate the complex terrain of balancing economic progress with the imperative of preserving our natural heritage.
What role do international agreements and cooperation play in addressing global environmental challenges?
International agreements and cooperation are absolutely indispensable in addressing the global environmental challenges that transcend national borders and require collective action on an unprecedented scale. No single nation, no matter how powerful or well-intentioned, can effectively tackle issues like climate change, biodiversity loss, or ocean pollution in isolation. These problems are inherently global in nature, demanding coordinated efforts from all countries to find solutions. One of the primary roles of international agreements is to establish a common framework of principles, goals, and obligations that guide national policies and actions. Agreements like the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, for example, set targets for greenhouse gas emission reductions and provide a mechanism for countries to cooperate in achieving those targets. Furthermore, international cooperation facilitates the sharing of knowledge, technology, and financial resources, which are often unevenly distributed among nations. Developed countries, which have historically contributed the most to environmental problems, often possess the technological expertise and financial capacity to develop and implement solutions. International agreements can create mechanisms for these countries to assist developing nations in their efforts to mitigate and adapt to environmental change. For instance, the Green Climate Fund, established under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, aims to transfer funds from developed to developing countries to support climate change projects. Moreover, international agreements play a crucial role in promoting accountability and transparency. They often include provisions for monitoring, reporting, and verification, which help to track progress towards agreed-upon goals and ensure that countries are fulfilling their commitments. This process not only builds trust among nations, but also provides valuable data and information that can inform policy decisions and guide further action. The work of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, which synthesizes scientific research on climate change and provides regular assessments to policymakers, exemplifies this role. In conclusion, international agreements and cooperation are not merely desirable, but essential for forging a united front against the global environmental challenges that threaten the well-being of our planet and its inhabitants.
How has technology influenced our relationship with nature, both positively and negatively?
Technology has profoundly reshaped our relationship with nature, presenting a complex duality of both positive and negative influences. On the one hand, technological advancements have, without a doubt, enabled us to understand nature in greater depth and to mitigate some of the environmental problems we have created. For example, satellite imagery and remote sensing technologies provide us with invaluable data on deforestation rates, pollution levels, and climate change patterns, allowing us to monitor the health of our planet with unprecedented accuracy. Furthermore, technological innovations in renewable energy, such as solar and wind power, offer promising alternatives to fossil fuels, reducing our reliance on polluting energy sources and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Precision agriculture techniques, Utilizing GPS and sensor technologies can optimize resource use, minimizing waste and reducing the environmental footprint of food production. However, it is equally important to acknowledge the detrimental impacts that technology has had on our relationship with nature. The development of industrial machinery and processes has led to large-scale resource extraction, pollution, and habitat destruction. The burning of fossil fuels, a direct consequence of technological advancements in transportation and energy production, has been the primary driver of climate change, with far-reaching consequences for ecosystems and human societies. Moreover, the proliferation of electronic devices and the rise of the digital age have, for many, created a disconnect from the natural world. People are spending increasing amounts of time indoors, engaged with screens, and less time outdoors, experiencing and appreciating the beauty and complexity of nature firsthand. This detachment can lead to a diminished sense of environmental responsibility and a lack of understanding of the importance of conservation. In conclusion, technology's influence on our relationship with nature is a double-edged sword. While it has provided us with powerful tools to understand and protect the environment, it has also contributed to significant environmental degradation and fostered a sense of alienation from the natural world for some. The challenge lies in harnessing the positive potential of technology while mitigating its negative impacts, fostering a more sustainable and harmonious relationship with nature. This will require a conscious effort to develop and deploy technologies in an environmentally responsible manner, coupled with a renewed emphasis on reconnecting people with the natural world.
What are the long-term consequences for humanity if we fail to address the ongoing loss of biodiversity?
The ongoing loss of biodiversity poses a grave threat to the long-term well-being of humanity, with potential consequences that are far-reaching and potentially catastrophic. Biodiversity, which encompasses the variety of life on Earth at all levels, from genes to ecosystems, provides a multitude of essential services upon which human societies depend. These services include the provision of food, clean water, and medicines, the regulation of climate, the pollination of crops, and the protection from natural disasters. If we fail to address the accelerating rate of biodiversity loss, we risk undermining the very foundations of our existence. One of the most immediate consequences of biodiversity loss is the disruption of food production. A significant portion of the world's food supply relies on a relatively small number of plant and animal species. The loss of genetic diversity within these species makes them more vulnerable to pests, diseases, and climate change, threatening food security for millions of people. Furthermore, the decline in pollinator populations, such as bees and butterflies, which are also a consequence of biodiversity loss, could have a devastating impact on crop yields, further exacerbating food shortages. Beyond food production, the loss of biodiversity also jeopardizes human health. Many of the medicines we rely on are derived from natural sources, and the extinction of species could deprive us of potential cures for diseases. Moreover, the loss of biodiversity can disrupt ecosystems in ways that increase the risk of infectious disease outbreaks. For example, deforestation can bring humans into closer contact with wildlife, increasing the likelihood of zoonotic diseases, such as Ebola or COVID-19, jumping from animals to humans. The consequences of biodiversity loss extend far beyond the realm of food and health. The loss of forests, wetlands, and other ecosystems can exacerbate climate change by reducing the planet's capacity to absorb carbon dioxide. It can also increase our vulnerability to natural disasters, such as floods, droughts, and storms, which are becoming more frequent and intense as a result of climate change. Furthermore, the loss of biodiversity can have profound social and economic consequences, undermining livelihoods, displacing communities, and fueling conflicts. In essence, the ongoing loss of biodiversity is not just an environmental issue. It is an existential threat to humanity, with the potential to unravel the fabric of our societies and jeopardize our future on this planet.